Hey, Pascal here again, and you've probably seen my first Mavic Air video where I talk about the best settings to avoid noise in the shadows while still maintaining a very good quality. And I have the Mavic Air now since around 1 month. It's a great drone, I absolutely love it. And you probably know I had the Phantom 4 Pro before, I had the Mavic Pro before, so I have a lot to compare here. And I saw a lot of people asking on Facebook and in YouTube comments and so on that they are thinking of getting the Air or the Pro, the Mavic Air or the Pro. And so here are my 2 cents for that. So who should buy the Mavic Pro or the Mavic Air? It's not like a comparison video where I will actually compare the footage or something. It's just my opinion from my experience. I don't have the Mavic Pro anymore, but when I recently traveled with my brothers to Thailand, I had the chance to fly it again. I had it before, like last year, for around 7 or 8 months, I think. So this is just my opinion here of which drone you should get, but first let's watch the intro. So at first I want to say that this is not an anti-Mavic Pro video. When I had the Mavic Pro, I loved it a lot, and when I was flying it a few weeks ago, like 2 or 3 weeks, I still loved it because like just flying with the Mavic Pro is such a breeze. I absolutely love how this drone reacts. It's just amazing here, so it's absolutely no hater video. I know a lot of guys will probably watch the video that have the Mavic Pro and they love it and they just don't want to say, oh, the Mavic Air is a bit better or something. No, but okay, so that's why here's my honest opinion about that, and let's get started. So the first thing, I will actually start with the benefits of the Mavic Pro. And the first thing, the first advantage of the Mavic Pro, of course, is the range. In my opinion, the Mavic Pro has the very best signal that you can have on a drone. Like even with my Phantom 4 Pro, I had more issues with the connection than with the Mavic Pro because OccuSync is really like just amazing. It's really like, I don't know what to say about that. You cannot make it better anymore. But I must also say that it's not that important because like the maximum range of the Mavic Pro is 7 kilometers long, and I was never flying 7 kilometers or even 4 kilometers for the EU range in my whole life. So my maximum range was actually in Iceland was a bit more than 2 kilometers, and that was only because we were standing like around 2 kilometers away from a volcano, and there was a big like lava field in front of that, and yeah, there was no way to go there because there was snow over the lava field. It was way too risky and we didn't have so much time, so I was just flying my drone there around 2 kilometers and was good. Of course, no issues was the Mavic Pro, but this was only one time, and after that I was never flying like farther than maybe 1.2 kilometers, and even that only 2 times. So in my opinion, I get such a few shots, like only like 3 shots actually, that were of a range more than 1 kilometer away, that I must really say the range is, for me, is not so important as a filmmaker. Of course, there are other people where the range is very important. Of course, you want to have a bit more flight distance when you do FPV flying, for example, because then like it's not about getting the very best shots, it's just about the fun of flying, and of course there it's better to have more range. And yeah, like, but apart from that, the distance really doesn't matter. So of course some people say now that it's also important that you don't lose connection even like under 500 meters or so, like in line of sight. And it seems like for the Mavic Air that there are some Mavic Airs out there, like Monday drones or so, that really have issues like even in 200 meters. My Mavic Air luckily not, but for some people it was like that. And there I read from a lot of people that they sent their drone back to DJI or brought it to the shop where they buy it, and they got a replacement, and the replacement worked good. So if you have a Mavic Air where you have these issues that connection gets low within 200 meters or so, then just bring it back, because that shouldn't be like that. First point here for the signal itself. I was actually flying the Mavic Air one time like around 500 meters away, but in sports mode, and I got some lag there around 500 meters then, but it was only in sports mode. When I switched to normal mode again and did my shots, that was okay, no problems at all. And another day I was flying in normal mode like around 1 kilometer away, a bit more actually, And there I had no issues at all. What I also say here is that you should think about what channel to use. Like when you get some problems, you can change the channels manually from the Mavic Air. That means like when you have a lot of Wi-Fi going around you, then you should always use 5.8 gigahertz, because 5.8 it has more frequencies and there are less frequencies used, because not so much people use 5.8 gigahertz right now for their Wi-Fi networks. And the advantage of 2.4 gigahertz is that when you use that, it's easier to go through like objects like trees or walls or so on. So let's say you have something between you and your drone, then you want to shoot in 2.4 gigahertz to get the most range. But when there are a lot of Wi-Fi networks around you, then you should definitely use 5.8 gigahertz. Very important here. So that's the first point. The Mavic Pro is clearly better from the range, but to me, yeah, we have to do a little break because of the dog. So the Mavic Pro is clearly better than the Mavic Air. It was signal, but for the normal videographer like me, it doesn't really make a difference, because the most shots and the very best shots I get in under 1 kilometer, actually in like under 200 meters usually, because I love to fly close to objects and I like to see the drone, what it does, because otherwise when I fly too close to objects, it's pretty likely that I crash it. So this factor really doesn't matter for me. The next big part, and that was actually a disadvantage that I was worrying about when getting the Mavic Air, is the flight time. Yes, the flight time is a lot lower. Like I would say, from my feeling, I get around 18 to 20 minutes of flight time with that. Of course, when the drone is moving and not standing in the air, just standing in the air actually takes more battery than flying, at least if you don't use sports mode. And but I must actually say that when I used the Mavic Pro before, also the Phantom 4 Pro, and I got around like 25 to 30 minutes of flight time, then I usually got my shots that I really wanted to do and that were important for my videos within the first 15 minutes. And after that, I was just flying randomly around. Oh, let's do something there, and let's try sports mode, fly above the beach like as fast as I can, and so on. And that's actually pretty stupid to do that, because like from my experience, a lot of crashes happen when you're just flying randomly around without having the target to get one specific shots or a few shots more. So in my opinion, it's also like something that could affect it a little bit, but it's not too bad. Like when I was like traveling with my brothers to Thailand the last 2 weeks, I didn't have any issues with the flight time at all. I always had enough. Like I have 4 batteries right now actually. And these 4 batteries were always okay, and usually I had 1 battery left at the end of the day. So 3 batteries, I think, for the most people, at least for experienced flyers, should be more than enough. To be absolutely safe that I always get the shot, I have 4 batteries with me, but I never had issues to get the shots that I want, and that's an important point for me. I was really fearing that a bit, that I will have problems with that, but it's absolutely fine from the flight time. And then a lot of people are actually complaining about the missing possibility to focus with the Mavic Air. I must honestly say that 1 year ago, or a bit more, when the Mavic Pro came out, so much people were complaining about the focus, because it was like automatically focusing and you didn't see on your small phone screen that it was actually out of focus and the complete footage was not usable. And that's why I love the Mavic Air, that it has no focus option. I don't want to focus with such a small sensor. I mean, even if I use the focus on the Phantom 4 Pro or the Mavic Pro or whatever, then it doesn't look good because the sensor is just too small. And like the background, when it's a little bit blurry, but it doesn't look like a real blurred background like with the DSLR camera. It looks more like I don't know, it looks like you didn't really want it that, and it blurs out the trees and so on. I don't really like that. I really prefer when I have everything in focus, infinity focus, like it is with the Mavic Air. I don't need to set it up. It doesn't ruin any shots. So I like that more. And yeah, of course, some people maybe like that feature. I don't know why, but it's really not a reason to go for the Mavic Pro. In my opinion, it's even better to don't have it. So my first point are the missing color profiles, and yes, the Mavic Pro has a lot more color profiles, but actually for me, I would say like just 3 profiles really matter. So what you really need, people that don't want to do any color grading, they just shoot in a natural or normal profile. Then there are people like me that use other profiles like the Cinelike or the LOC. And like from my experience, you can get footage with LOC profiles, even with smaller sensors. But under the wrong circumstances, it can also destroy a lot of footage or cause that you get more banding, or when you do color correction that you get more color artifacts or something like that. And you never really know if the LOC profile under this situation where you're shooting in really works out or not. And that's why even with the Phantom 4 Pro with a 1-inch sensor, I got used to use the Cinelike profile as much as possible and try to avoid LOC whenever possible. But I must say, like under some circumstances, like when sunsets, when you want to get a bit more details in the shadows or something, LOC can be better, and it's missing on the Mavic Air. So this is a down point. Yeah, it is a down point. But I must also say that even when I had a sunset or something in the past 2 weeks when I was traveling with my brother, I never had problems that I got like not enough details in the shadows or so on. Of course, there could be a little bit more, but most of the time it was pretty good. The footage looks amazing, so it's actually better because everything is easier to set up. I have a great color correction. I actually never had problems with color artifacts or something in post-production on the Mavic Air. Like even with the Phantom 4 Pro footage, I had these issues a lot when I shot in a pretty flat profile. So that's important for me also. It makes it a bit easier in post-production. Of course, it's not because like the camera is better or something, no, especially not compared to the Phantom 4 Pro, but it forces me to shoot in a not too flat profile so that I don't get those issues, and it's actually good. So yeah, I would say it's neutral here. Like the footage that you get is still not bad, also from a dynamic range perspective, but of course with a LOC profile you would get a bit more out of that. But enough for the advantages of the Mavic Pro. Let's come to the advantages of the Mavic Air. So one big advantage of the Mavic Air, of course, are the more flight modes, especially for beginners that like to play around more a little bit. But for me, those much more flight modes doesn't really matter, especially like the asteroid mode or so on. It's definitely cool when you show it your friends or post it on Facebook or something. But for me, as a serious filmmaker who wants to get like cinematic shots and so on, I don't use it so much. Like probably for me the boomerang mode would be interesting because I can like cut some parts of that. It looks pretty cinematic, but especially the asteroid mode is nothing usable for me. So I would say like for a serious filmmaker, it's not a huge difference if you have this few flight modes more or not. But if you want to have a bit more fun for the drone, then it's definitely an advantage for the Mavic Air. So the next thing here, and that is actually a huge advantage of the Mavic Air. In my opinion, it has a better camera than the Mavic Pro. I know here a lot of people say that the Mavic Pro looks sharper, but let's be honest, why does the Mavic Pro look sharper? It looks sharper because everyone has to set their sharpness to +1, simply because otherwise all the bushes get blurred out by the noise reduction of this drone. And everyone is complaining about this noise reduction. It's really not good. And yeah, that's why the footage, of course, looks sharper, because everyone shoots in +1 sharpness with the Mavic Pro, and on the Mavic Air you can actually leave it to 0 or even less. It's warm, I get a bit sweaty. And so in my opinion, it's actually better to have it on the Mavic Air, like less noise reduction going on and blurring out all the bushes, so that when you set it to 0, in my opinion, you get a pretty nice and natural looking sharpness from the Mavic Air. And that's important because like I can always add some digital sharpness in post-production, and like if you want to have this a bit over sharpened look like it's from the Mavic Pro, then you can also set the Mavic Air to +1 sharpness and you will get a very similar image. So in my opinion, like the sharpness is definitely better on the Mavic Air, even if some people on the first look would say, oh, the Mavic Air is so much sharper. It isn't. It's digital sharpness that doesn't count. But the huge advantage here also from this camera, from the Mavic Air, is that you have 100 mbits, and this is so much more. Like the Mavic Pro has 60 mbits, so you get 40 mbits more details in your footage. And for me, when I do color correction, that's pretty important, and I think that's also one reason why I get less color artifacts than, for example, with a Mavic Pro, because like of course the footage is also not that flat anymore, but also with 100 Mbits I have like more details to work with, so especially in the skies and so on, and in the water it doesn't happen so much that I get color artifacts. So for me it saves a lot of time in post-production. Then yeah, one thing we already talked about, that no manual focus. In my opinion it's an advantage. Some people think different about that, but yeah, I was already talking about that. And one other thing that I actually would like to have is that you can control your aperture, but you can also not control that on the Mavic Pro, but on the Phantom 4 Pro. This is a nice feature because for some videographers it makes it easier to stick to the 180-degree rules, like when you shoot in 25p that you get a shutter speed of 50p. And yeah, you can usually, when you don't use ND filters, or let's say you have a like lower ND filter like an ND8 or something, then you sometimes need the aperture to control that. You cannot do that on the Mavic Air. That's definitely a disadvantage. But to be honest, in most drone shots you don't really need to stick to the 180-degree rules, because the objects are not so close that you would see a huge like motion blur. Only when you fly close to objects, then the motion blur comes pretty important, and then you should stick to the 180-degree rule. The next huge advantage of the Mavic Air, and that's why I love this drone so much. Look at that here. It's so small. Like, this is my hand. I really don't have big hands. I'm a small guy, and this is awesome. It is so small, so portable, and that's why I actually switched from the Phantom 4 Pro to the Mavic Air, because I had to carry this big bag all the time with all the stuff in it, and it was too much for me. Like, I'm constantly traveling. I don't have a home right now. I don't live anywhere. I'm just traveling, and this drone is perfect for me there and for everyone who travels a lot. And also what comes together with like the small size is that it looks more like a toy. So actually when you bring the drone anywhere you fly, or you want to get inside a national park or so on and your bag gets checked, it's less likely that they take it away from you or that they actually see it. So yeah, it gives you more possibilities to bring it anywhere, and that's also like an important factor for me. I wouldn't say that you should fly like illegally in a national park or something, but sometimes you don't know if they let you fly there or not, especially here in Thailand. And yeah, when you bring a drone there, then at least I don't want that they take the drone from me. Like, one time you've probably seen my Emerald Pool video from Krabi, and with the Phantom 4 Pro they were taking my drone, the Phantom 4 Pro, at the entrance. So I mean, I got it back later, so it wasn't too bad. But of course I don't like to give my drone to anyone else, because you never really know what they do with the drone, right? So yeah, a huge advantage here. Also, it looks like a toy, and also like when you fly, people are less scared. And then also, of course, it has a way better obstacle avoidance. It has sensors on the back actually, so when you fly backwards with the drone you don't get any problems, or it's less likely that you fly into like a tree or something. Don't have it with the Mavic Pro, so here the Mavic Air clearly wins. Then also one good thing obviously is the price. It is still cheaper than the Mavic Pro, but of course also the price of the Mavic Pro went a bit down, so I think the Mavic Pro 2 is probably coming out soon. But yeah, it's just cheaper, and like for $1,000 you get the Mavic Air Fly More combo. I got that with 3 batteries, with an amazing bag, with multiple battery chargers, so it's really a nice set, and I would recommend for everyone who wants to buy the Mavic Air to get the Fly More combi. So even with the price, the Mavic Air clearly wins. So at least for me, that were the most important points for the Mavic Pro and the Mavic Air. There are probably some more, but those more points are really not important for me, and I think also not important for most people. And yeah, I mean, let's come to a conclusion here. On the paper, the Mavic Pro clearly wins, but most of its advantages, for me at least, and I think for most other people, don't matter. And I would say that the advantages that the Mavic Air has over the Mavic Pro are actually much more important than the advantages of the Mavic Pro. Like, for example, like its size, it makes it so much better. Like, I have this bag here, it's actually open right now. Oh fuck. So but look at that. Like, this is a lower Pro 350 bag. When I open that part here, I can simply, like, okay, not now, but when I fold the drone, I can easily fit inside here. I have another space here where I put the controller, and I can actually take out my drone. while I'm walking. So when I'm with a group tour or something, I don't have to wait. I can just take out the drone, don't need to wait for anyone, blah, and fly it. That's amazing. Like, that makes it so much easier for me to get really every shot I want to get. Like before with the Phantom 4 Pro, sometimes with the Mavic Pro also, I missed some shots because I just don't want to take it out. It's just too much then, and like that really solves the problem. I love that drone just for its size, it's amazing. Also camera quality is a bit better, and those are like the advantages that matter much more than a flight distance. I don't need to fly 4 or 7 kilometers far away. In the distance that I fly, I have great connection, everything is perfect, I get every shot that I want. People are not caring about that drone so much, so it's like perfect. DJI did a great job there, and that's why I would, like, for like probably 90% of the people that watch this video, I would recommend to buy the Mavic Air instead of the Mavic Pro. The people that should buy the Mavic Pro, of course, the Mavic Pro is not a bad drone. Like I said before, it's not a video against the Mavic Pro or something. The Mavic Pro is awesome. It makes a lot of fun to fly. Actually, I like how it reacts and so on. Great drone, absolutely. But I would say the people that should get the Mavic Pro are more the people like that do FPV flying or so on, or that for any other reasons need to fly far away. Because like the biggest advantage of the Mavic Pro is really its connection, and with the OccuSync it's just amazing. And if you need to fly far away, then the Mavic Pro is clearly the drone that you should buy. But like for most people, I think also a lot of beginners that never had a drone before want to buy the Mavic Air, and for them really the Mavic Air is the better drone, and especially with your first drone, it's better to don't fly too far away, stay in line of sight, get used to the drone, get used to the controls, how to fly it, especially when you fly backwards and so on. So of course I can do another video about that. But yeah, like for most people, the Mavic Air is a better drone. So that's my conclusion here. I really hope you liked the video and I was able to help you a bit with that question. So if yes, and if you like that video, then please hit the subscribe button. I do a lot more videos about drones, give you tips on how to get better footage and so on. So don't miss that, and see you in the next video.